Welcome back to another episode of the Chats with Clark podcast. I'm your host, Joe Clark, and here at Chats with Clark, we don't do poppy intros. We get straight to the point. And the point of today's episode, episode 53, is Mike Catanzarite. He's a great businessman, a beloved name around Cleveland, and just a great guy all the way around. So, Mike, thanks for being here.
You're welcome.
Mike, to get us started off, is there anything you want to touch on your background or what you're involved in?
No, I'm involved in a lot. I mean, as we go through and we talk about this, you get involved if you want to be involved, and if you don't want to be involved, then you do nothing. So I tend to be a little over the edge on trying to get involved and helping where I can.
Mike, what's your motivation behind that? Why do you want to get involved?
I love people, and I love listening to people, and I still believe to this day we all meet for a reason. Everyone is put into our life if we make sure we give it a little time to understand why, right? And at the end of the day, some of those people you may say, geez, I'm sorry I met him, but it's just a big opportunity to network and meet people, and you never know where that's going to take you.
So, Mike, I totally agree with you. I think that just the people in our lives are really what kind of influence us. And as you look back, who would you say are some of the biggest influences that you've met, whether it's someone you know very well or like,
Oh, I mean, it starts obviously with my parents. I mean, I had great parents, and I was a guy that hated school. So the minute I got to high school, my dad had his own business, but not that successful at that time. And very nicely said, you know what, it'd probably be better if you come and work for me instead of continuing your education, which I did. And, the one thing I always remember about my dad is he never said, I told you so, even though I did a lot of stuff where you should have said, I told you so. So it starts with my dad, my mom. I had different mentors over my lifetime. I had an attorney friend that's long gone now that was a great mentor. One of my favorite was a little nun named Sister Helen. I met Sister Helen on the Welsh Jesuit board in 2002, and we were sitting there during the meeting, and I had a few swear words we were sharing, and at the end of the meeting, we got up and everybody said, "Hey, Sister Helen, it's nice seeing you." Like, oh my gosh! But Sister Helen, I ended up talking to almost every day until she passed away a couple of years ago.
that's amazing.
Yeah,
You rebounded from
she was
person.
assaulted. She's just a wonderful. She was the assistant director of all Catholic grade schools for years downtown, and she's just a wonderful, caring individual that I wouldn't be the same without. It was like my second mom. My mom died in '03, and Helen died about 3 years ago. So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of them over the years, but those were really important to me.
And so your dad kind of catapulted your involvement in the business world.
Yeah, basically, you have no chance to go to school. So you should really come in and work in the business, which I did. And, it was a great journey. We sold out in 2016, but it was a long, good journey.
How did you scale the business? Because you said when you joined, it wasn't as successful, but
Yeah, I mean, when I joined, we probably had maybe 150 employees, and when we sold, we had almost 2,500.
wow.
35. We had 35 retail locations, and we had 3 warehouses with about 1,000,000 square feet of space. It, Look, my God gave me the ability to be good with people and to understand people and to motivate people. And it was, when you're in business, a lot of times you feel like you're on an island by yourself, whether you're in the video business or whatever, and it's hard to make decisions. And that's where these mentors come in. And it's really just leap of faith. You take a chance. Business really is, it's like a tiger. You grab it by the tail, and wherever it goes, you got to run with it.
So it's all that adaptability.
It is. And
Okay.
people and bankers, everybody wants your 5-year plan. Your 5-year plan's worth about 5 minutes after you're done with your 5-year plan. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, the wind blows and it
the
changes.
ability, we had 35 locations, and we got a niche of finding old shopping centers that needed a lot of work, and then we became the anchor tenant, and then drew a lot more traffic for the others. So it's really, it's just you just got to do it.
Mike, to name the business, we're talking Pacatans for our audience sake. What I would imagine that maybe now it's a craft store, right? So it was a craft store. So I imagine like maybe that wasn't something that you had all your specialty in. So much to your conversation, how were you able to adapt to something that I don't know, or maybe you did know everything about it, and so as to grow and to
No, I didn't. Look, I'm not a crafter.
Right.
I mean, I guess I could be, but you don't need to be in that field. You don't need to be active in that field to run a business.
Okay.
You know, if you look at successful businesses, the guys that know people, take care of their people, and learn how to motivate, and 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 aren't afraid to bring in people that are smarter than them to run that company. Those are the guys that are successful. So you don't have to be an expert in crafts or an expert in food or an expert. You got to be a motivator.
So it almost like an expert in people.
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
If you're an expert in people, that's a big barrier right there that will take you over the top.
And how do you use your knowledge of people to motivate them? One of my favorite sayings is like the art of motivation is getting people to do what you want because they want to do it.
It is, but the best employees and the best boss you can have that is, knowledgeable, right? But also caring. So I use competent and caring. If a guy's competent, got to be competent to be successful, but you don't have to be caring. But the guy that cared about your family and the company and the customer, all of a sudden, then you have a home run.
I love that.
Right.
Yeah, you treat it like it's a family, and if you can run it that way.
And you can't bullshit your way through caring.
True.
So when I used to ask an employee how your wife was, I meant how your wife was. I wasn't staring off into the shadows and really didn't care. And we spent a lot of time at work sponsoring and doing whatever people had for their kids, baseball team, basketball team, because those people came home then, and to their wives and to their friends and said, my boss sponsored this. My boss cared enough about my family to give me money. I got the team sponsored. Home run.
That's awesome.
Home run.
Yeah, and everyone's seeing that, and you're part of a company that you can buy into, right? Because
Exactly.
like you're gonna go to work every day working hard. So
Anybody out there that has kids, if someone's nice to your kids, you never forget it,
Mhm.
right? So why not take advantage of that? And it's the right thing to do anyway.
It is the right thing to do.
Right.
Yeah, and Mike, is the faith like something that's really driving for you? Because everything you're touching on, right? The humility and just the caring for the entire person, that cura personalis idea.
I mean, it is for me. I always think, I had fabulous parents that gave me a chance, right? I mean, I don't think that was luck. I married the right girl. I had one babe, and I married her. So we're almost going to be married 50 years. So
Congratulations.
yeah, that's because of her, not me.
Someone didn't put up with you.
Right. There's got to be more than just luck, right? So I consider myself very, very fortunate, and there's a higher thing above here that's got to been guiding me.
Mike, you touched on it. I heard that your wife was your high school sweetheart.
Yeah, we went to grade school together at St.
Great school, even
Bartholomew's.
better.
We were in first grade class together, confirmation, 8th grade graduating class,
Wow.
first communion.
When did you guys start hitting it off?
15,
Okay.
16.
Yeah.
So I have pictures in my house. We're in the same kindergarten class, first grade class, and obviously we didn't know at that point.
Of course.
That was my only date. Yeah.
How imperative would you say it is for someone entering business to have a supportive wife or husband or whatever?
Well, that's the key. I could sit here and say it's because my wife I was successful, but it is because my wife I'm successful, because a good woman in your life that realizes you have a lot of stress at work and you have to work hard, and she can't put more on you, right? I mean, it's easy for the wife to complain about the kids, or I need this or I need that, but my wife understood that, I was working 6 days a week, 3 nights, Saturdays. And she realized, don't put any more burden. So we had 4 boys under the age of 13 or 12.
Yeah.
My God.
Worked out.
So we call her Saint Lori. So a good woman is a good wife or companion. Really, that's support they give you to allow you to do your job, because it's harder to be a mom and a wife, but it's hard for a guy that owns a business. He's going strong all day. People are driving him nuts. Nobody comes into your office and tells you something good. It's always a problem. And then you jump into home and the kids are hanging from the railing and they gave the mom a hard time. So it's a tough world, right? You never get a break. I used to take the long way home and smoke a little cigar, but I quit that. I was too close to work, so I used to drive in a circle. So yeah, the woman is I mean, there's no question. It's the most important part of it.
What was it about Lori, St. Lori, that you knew? You're like, you know what, this is it. I want to do this.
You know, I don't know what it was. I just really liked her. And she went on vacation when we were like 17 and then, or 18, maybe 18 and a half. And she got off the plane, looked good. And I said, that's it. We're getting married. I was lonely. So that was the deal.
That was it.
Yeah.
And you committed ever since. It's incredible.
Yeah. All my boys have these all elaborate plans on how to get engaged, and not me. I was just like, I was really lonely. We got to get married. And thank God she said, yeah.
That's a heck of a sales pitch right there, Mike. I don't know.
Isn't it? That's
I'm
it.
lonely, marry me.
That's what it was. And she agreed. So thank God we did it.
Amen. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like so often now with the entrepreneurial world, as it's displayed on social media, is like, oh, you're kind of in the trenches, like on your own. But I think the counter to that, and maybe like your generation recognizes the importance of the family, of the unit, of having people on your team.
Well, sure. I mean, you can't be a know-it-all. You got to seek advice. And I think the older generation, and I'm not quite older yet, I'm old. I always enjoyed talking to the older the guy, the better, because I learned more if you give them the ability to listen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can learn something from, like our good buddy, Father Bob. I mean, you can still learn from Father Bob.
100%.
You know, and as people get older, they tend to, there's different advice they give you. Father Bob's totally different from when he worked to now.
Yeah.
So you get a different perspective there. But it's turned into it's a little too much of an I world, and people got to get a little more caring and get others involved. And
As you were growing your business, Mike, Lori's by your side. There's a phrase that I've heard that I'm curious your opinion on. I've heard that when you reach new levels, there's always new devils.
yeah,
What would you say to that? Like, how would you encourage someone, or what would your piece of advice be to someone who's scaling and then reaching these new businesses? There are these new devils. Is it worth it in the business?
it is. Look, there's going to be a devil on everything, right? I mean, and I don't even like saying it, but I pride myself on always helping people and being very generous. But when you do that, people are going to take advantage. Okay. So what's the devil there? Saying I'm never going to help again, right? Because I think the devil comes in, you got messed up on this deal and you got taken advantage of. So I'm never going to do it again. No, you just got to be more cautious on how you do it. So the devils are the ego. I'm a big deal. Forget where you started, and forget to give back, and just stop. None of that stuff matters.
With that, when do you think you found your purpose for giving back and really helping people?
You know what? I found it pretty early because I watched my dad. Like, my dad's company really wasn't making money, and I mean, had a good income, but back in when I first started, my dad was very good to the nuns, and to this day, the Catholic nuns, I think we were successful because of that. So back when he only had 2 craft stores, the nuns would come in their habits, and everything was free. My dad would never charge a nun for anything, even though he didn't have the money.
Yeah.
And the nuns would pray for him and bring him an infant dressed, and so I saw that, and I always remembered that was such an impact. I think I would say to myself, "Why are we giving all this stuff away? We don't have any money."
Yeah.
But you just, and look, I enjoy helping people, I think. And I try to tell the grandkids and anybody that wants to listen. I mean, you feel so good when you're done helping somebody that I mean, I could take the best vacation in the world. I'd rather give somebody something and feel good about it.
Isn't it amazing to see their reaction too?
Yeah, it's
Like,
awesome.
so
Because,
authentic.
there's so many people struggling out there. It's tough.
It
It's
is.
hard out there.
Yeah, I feel like much to kind of tie it all in. when we recognize that every other person has the same value and just goals and drive to enjoy life as we do, then we can reach them where they are and really offer some of that love. Like that's when the real beauty of life shines.
Yeah. And look, people are miserable at times because they're overwhelmed. They're overwhelmed with society, which, years ago there was only one parent working, right? I mean, now everybody's got to work. I mean, nobody can watch their kids. There's 7 daycares in Strongsville, 3 new ones being built. Doesn't make it a bad thing, but and I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm saying that puts a lot of stress on people.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times when people are short or they're mad about something, I kind of step back and say, well, wait a minute. They got a lot going on in their life. And how can we help them?
Mike, to kind of take it back a little bit, when you ventured out of the crafts business, how did you know where you wanted to go from there? Because you weren't done there.
No, well, so we sold our company in 2016, and then I had to work for Michael's Corporation, which bought it. So that was a culture shock because that was a $6 billion company, and we were used to doing things much faster. So I worked there for about a year and a half, and then we always did a lot of property. I did a lot of shopping centers and um, industrial buildings. So I continued down that path and still do that to this day. And then my 4 boys, I'll do something different. I help them. So there's not I don't have I really got to re-retire is what I got to do. So it's not for lack of work.
For someone entering the field and wants to get into business, where would you say is probably the most advantageous for them at this point?
What field?
Mm-hmm.
Probably anything in the service industry.
Okay.
What's tough today is, so when I was running my company, every year we would end the year with like $110 million in inventory. So that's what's called an inventory driven company. So anything you got to buy and sell and buy and sell. So you got to make the right purchases for every season. Then you got to hope somebody buys it. Then you got to hope they pay for it. Then you got to start all over again.
Yeah.
And you got to be right on all those decisions. So the service industry where you're selling your time and a service, obviously it's much easy from a financial stuff. Not easy. There's nothing easy, but it's just, it's less dollars to get that thing going.
So whatever less principal, less capital that you're putting into it,
Correct.
the better. Okay. So you think maybe something where you can give your time could be better of a reward.
Yeah.
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 Interesting.
Right. And look, it's in today's world. I mean, if you think about it, so I'm in the restaurant business too, but you guys come in and you get a hamburger and it's perfect and it's served on time and you're happy. You got to do that every time.
Yeah.
What's the chances of that?
Yeah.
0. So the service industry where you're selling a service, whether it's making videos or updating somebody's website, you don't have the dollars as much tied up into that.
I see what you're saying. Absolutely. Yeah. Because the restaurant industry, I mean, as well as the next guy, that's ruthless too.
Right. It is, but I laugh when everybody tells you how hard the restaurant business is. And it's hard for us too, but not when you're big on treating people the right way. And in fact, for our restaurant, the first thing we did is we're not open any Sundays. We're not open holidays. So if Christmas, we're always open or closed 4 days around Christmas, and New Year's, we're not open Thanksgiving, all that bull crap. So then I advertise it, spend time with your family while everybody else is working. And we've had a lot of people stay because they don't want to work Sundays.
Right.
They don't want to work Christmas Eve. They don't want to work Mother's Day is on a Sunday. And I said, I don't care. We're closed on Sundays.
Yeah.
And you've got to be consistent with that of why do people want to work for you, right?
And in prior interviews, you've referenced the family values that you try and bring to everything, which we've heard.
You do, and a lot of people talk about them, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back, but most people don't do it.
Sure.
They don't follow through with it.
No.
They say if I'm open Sundays in the restaurant business, I can bring in another 650,000, so I should do that. Which, unfortunately, most of the time you have to do it to make money.
True. And you found that no matter what, staying true, you have great employees that are going to come in and work their tails off for you, like you said earlier, because they believe in what they're doing.
Correct.
That's beautiful.
I don't know if it's beautiful.
I think it's beautiful because it's so countercultural, right? Like I think Chick-fil-A, to use like such a prominent example, being closed on Sundays is so consistent,
Yeah.
and it's like the only one.
Well, Hobby Lobby
Fine.
too.
Hobby Lobby too. There you go.
That used to be a big customer of ours when we were still in business, and they held true to the deal. They're not opening on Sundays. And look, most of these people could get away from it. They just don't want to. But you started seeing that on Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve. You started seeing a lot of these major retailers backing off on some of that stuff, which is good. But again, a lot of people talk family first, all this, but if you don't follow up on it, it doesn't mean nothing.
True. Yeah, it does seem like we're taking a shift almost back towards some of those.
There's definitely a shift coming back to the family and Christianity, and it's okay to think like that, which is good.
Yeah, we need it. It moves, right? Like look how effective you've been able to retain your employees.
Right.
I mean, the proof's in the pudding with that.
And it's sad because I don't do anything unique besides be nice to people. I mean, where did all that change, right? Think about it. It's unbelievable.
Perhaps that is the unique part, which is
I don't know. I find it hard to believe. I'm fortunate. A lot of people say, "Will you help me?" I say, "Absolutely, I'll help you." So, I got one kid in Kentucky or Cincinnati. He's got a big freight company, and first I said every Tuesday at 8:30 we're going to talk for an hour and let's figure it out. Well, we learned that he's got no communication toward family, friends, none of that stuff, and he wonders why the employees are kind of sour. He says, "Well, you know what? I kind of forgot about it." I says, "Well, you better hurry up and think about it again."
Yeah.
So, and again, you're in the fire and you don't know.
It's hard to be clear, right? The smoke sometimes clouds the vision when you're in the fire.
Right.
I've always loved
But
that.
there again, that's a big thing with me about meeting people and helping. And so maybe I changed him a little bit. So maybe he was nice to the girl in his office that's pregnant and maybe
sure.
would have cried before, but now she's happy at her job. It really is an extension.
The butterfly effect is so real.
Yeah, you don't realize it, but if you stop and think about it, I used to have guys in my office. I had a supervisor once, and I found out that every Friday he probably had 8 or 9 supervisors in his group. Every Friday, he'd send them a note saying, "We're going to have a meeting Monday at 7." Well, all these people would go home all weekend thinking, "What are we meeting about?"
Yeah.
Right? So that came to my attention. I said, "Are you stupid? And this is the worst thing. Why torture people? Because your mind always wanders to the worst spot. The boss wants to talk to me.
I'm getting fired.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or I'm big on, look, you're the boss now. Everything you say, these people are going to remember it. So don't say it." My mom, God bless her, used to say, now that you're getting married, if you're ever mad at your wife or your in-laws, don't tell me because you'll forget about it and I never will.
Wow.
That's exactly right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's a great lesson there.
it was a great lesson because it's true. Anybody that's got kids, if somebody says, you're never going to forget it. So don't say it.
It's funny because we can all think back to memories we have when we're like 5, 6 years old, and we're like, how the heck do I remember this? It's the classic, I don't remember what I ate for dinner yesterday kind of thing, but
100%.
But you remember the things that you were told or what you experienced from even far long ago.
100%.
Mike, there's always a litany that I follow to kind of close out each episode.
Yeah.
And first of all, I'd like to thank you again for coming on because I know that this is another one of those outreaches that you're doing to be generous in this case.
Only because you're buddies with Father Bob. Go ahead.
Thank you. As we kind of do wind down here a little bit and you look back at your life, would you say that you have any regrets?
Yeah. I should have been more patient.
More patient.
Running a family business, I had 21 family members. And, when you're running fast in a business, a lot of times you don't think you have enough time to slow down and you just want to get it done. Right. But like, look, I don't have time for this bullshit right now. Quit crying. This is what we're going to do. Patience with my family, probably.
And you think you've grown from that too, would you say?
Yeah. Because I'm older.
Okay.
And you're looking back, but when you're in the fire and you're trying to run something and somebody's crying about something that means nothing, back then you're like, that means nothing. I'm not going to spend any time on it.
But it's hard to balance that tough love, right?
Right. But in retrospect, you probably should have. I mean, that was it. I'd like to have back buying some property or something, but that's not important.
Yeah.
I'd say The only thing I would want back is, how the patience maybe drove some of the relationships, good or bad.
It always comes back to the people, doesn't it? Because when it comes to, like, say, the properties or whatever the case may be, where you look
Yep.
back and it's always like, well, I took something from that. But when it comes into people, it's like, I wish I never would have
Right.
hurt them. I
But
wish that.
when you're running a company, whether it's a family company, it's a big family company we had, and you just didn't. It was a sprint. You didn't have a lot of time back then, or at least you didn't think to coddle some people. But maybe coddling was the right thing to do. So if I had to do it over, I'd coddle a little more. I'd still yell at some of them, but I'd coddle.
Yeah, yell first, coddle second.
Yeah, yeah, yes. So that would be it. I mean, yeah. How about you?
I think we all have regrets, much like you're saying, probably in the treatment of others, right? I think we always, and any
Like,
human that's honest
right,
would be able to pinpoint situations where they would have handled it differently.
right,
Were they wiser at that time?
correct.
But I think one of my big contentions is that when we live gratefully, we're just happier in general.
100%.
What role would you say that gratitude plays in your life?
Oh, I mean, that's the whole deal, right? I mean, whether it's, look, I'm grateful for what I have. I can take care of my kids, my grandkids. To me, it's always an extension of who we can help. And that, I still remember the stories of the times we helped different people that were just, I mean, that's life changing.
For them, you're saying, or for you?
For me, more.
Okay.
More than,
Yeah.
yeah, for both of us, I'm sure. We played in an over 50 softball league for years, and there were 4 old guys that came and watched every game, right? And they had to be bored to death.
Yeah.
But so we'd stay after and drink more beer than we played baseball. But one old guy never showed up, and his name was Steve, and we tracked him down at the donut shop, and he lost his car. He lived in a hotel, on Pearl Road. It's like $1,500 I bought this guy a car. You would have thought I gave him, right?
Yeah.
And he says, "Why are you doing this?" I says, "Because we only had 4 fans. You're not there. That's 25% we lost. We need you back." So he drove that car until he passed away.
My gosh.
That was the best $1,500. I had a lot of stories like that, but that was fun.
Man, yeah.
And fortunate I'm able to do it.
No, it's beautiful though, because you're directly seeing the influence there.
Yeah.
And then darn well that he drove that car up there to watch you guys every
He did.
week.
He
too.
did. I said, "Why do you guys watch us?" Because you guys are bad. Okay, I agree.
You caused them to drink. They needed a reason. And I'm
Right.
like, this is painful. Give me a beer.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it to me too. If you can live with gratitude on your heart and on your mind, then
Yep.
all of a sudden, like the regrets or whatever the situation is, turns even better.
Yeah.
And then you carry that forward with you, or it has that ripple effect. It's almost like infectious in the best way.
It's amazing what comes back to you, 20 years later, 30 years later, people that remember things that you did that, even it wasn't a big deal back then, but to them it was.
Yeah, people always remember how you made them feel. Right?
Yeah.
And
That's an old saying. And the world's actually getting a little better, but before it was terrible. It's tough. A lot of these people that work in these jobs, I mean, nobody cares.
yeah, cogs in the system. Right?
Yeah. They're just numbers.
And that's what I think is so awesome about all the stories that you shared, is that you give the name and the face and the humanity to each of your employees and each of the people that you.
Well, we try. I'm sure if I had 2,500 people, 10% were mad about something,
Sure,
but that was just part of it.
that's inevitable, but
Yeah, you just can't stop caring and giving because somebody's mad.
and you're doing the best for the most. So that's all
I
you can.
try.
There's always going
Yeah.
to be some that are going to be sour.
I like the video guy too.
Yeah, the video guy's pretty good. We're lucky to have him.
Yeah.
Mike, one of the questions that I've added recently is kind of rooted in this appreciation for life. And
Yeah.
so when you look at your calendar, which I'm sure is slammed, what do you have coming up that you're looking forward to?
Well, I love meetings. I love meeting people, and I love I love the challenge of winning.
Okay.
So what I'm looking forward to right now, Friday, I'm taking my 18-year-old grandson and his 3 buddies to Florida for spring break.
Good luck.
So that ought to be some kind of wild. We'll get them under control. The following week, we did we did a proposal for the city of Berea to do a project around the Browns campus, a development project. So we finished in the top 3. There were probably 10 people that put bids in.
Oh, that's awesome.
So we
Congrats.
finished in the top 3, and we're going to have that meeting. And that I enjoy, like
Yeah.
going and selling us. And I like to put a plan together, and then I like to execute that plan to see if we can win.
It's that competition. Yeah, I get that.
Whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I'm going to do something, and got a lot of cool stuff. I got back on the board at Walsh Jesuit in Cuyahoga Falls because I have so many grandkids there now. So
Yeah.
we've got some neat projects we're working on there, and just seeing it to the end.
That's perfect. Yeah, appreciating the process too.
Right.
I understand that.
I like to win.
Yeah, that's part of it, right? And
Yeah.
each step along the way matters.
Well, everything's a game, right? So
Why?
that's just the way I look at it.
Yeah, okay.
It's just, I don't know why. Everything's I just love the process of winning, and that has nothing to do with money or cashing out. It's just like, here's the plan. And then, sometimes figuring out why it didn't work. I mean, everything's not going to be perfect.
There's a saying that I just heard from Tony Robbins, which I think is kind of
Okay, yeah.
into this, and he says, losers react, leaders anticipate.
That's true, though.
Isn't it? Yeah. And like hearing you say that, I'm like, man, it's just.
It is. And, people are too quick to make a plan, and then it didn't work, and they kill it. But why didn't it work? Did you not run it on the right social media? Was the price wrong, point wrong? I mean, I had the greatest salesman in the world, but if the product's crap, you can't sell nothing anyway. So there's a lot of variables of why you lost. And if you take and learn from that and you recreate it, you'd be all right.
Winners win. That's it. That's
Yeah.
how you just don't quit.
Yeah, I love it. I love the challenge. If somebody says I can't do nothing or something, and I'm like, yeah, I think we can do that.
Yeah, backs against the wall. Not. It's like watch.
Yeah. So, but again, I'll say it's all the people that you meet and the people you work with is what makes it.
Mike, my last question to you is
Yes,
just
sir.
simple. Would you have any advice that you would like to tailor to a specific audience or to the audience abroad? Any kind of closing thoughts, any remarks that you just want to leave on your monologue?
I would, and there's a buddy of mine, I want to give him credit. His name is Umberto Fedeli, and he's very self-educated, smart guy. But what I always preach of what he said, it's the who, okay? Who do you marry? Who do you hang out with? Who did you hire? Who you're going on vacation with. The who really dictates where you end up. So, I started the who, obviously my parents, I didn't have a choice with that, but I was lucky. And, I always ask my priest buddies, how did I end up with such good parents? And the poor guy over here didn't have them.
Yeah.
But the who was my wife, and, the who's who you hang out with, and pick carefully on the who, and everything else will fall into place.
Wow. Yeah, that's beautiful. Mr. Fedeli clearly had
He's
an
the
act
best.
for people. It
He's
sounds
the
like
best.
this. Yeah.
Interview him sometime. It'll be unbelievable.
I
He'll
would
do
love
10
to.
times.
It'd be great if you could connect with
But that was always his saying, and that really stuck with you. And if you think about it, look, if I take the who away of my wife, I mean, what do I have?
Yeah.
You could be down a whole totally different road, right?
Isn't it amazing? Yeah, if you had those daily headaches that you were talking about, or if you were coming home.
But it's so important, when you talk about relationships, like our mutual friend, Father Bob. I mean, the who. I mean, what do I do without him? He baptized 8 of my 11 grandkids.
It's incredible.
Right.
Yeah, and the wisdom you get from the who, right? I mean, you pick up on it whether you want to or not.
Yeah.
So
your job is you got to pick the who. And, sometimes you got to know when to run, like that who ain't who you want to be. Right. So I would think that would be one of the most important things.
And I think that's super important. And I think it's one that people maybe often overlook.
So they do for sure.
Yeah.
Because you become the who.
Exactly.
If you hang out with that guy over there 5 days a week, you're going to mold yourself to that guy over there for 5 days a week.
Totally.
If that's what you want, then that's okay.
And if not, again, it's running.
You got a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you need to find and place yourself in environments where you find what you want to become.
Right.
And then you emulate that because that you're going to pick up on the habits and the skills and whatever their focus is will end up becoming.
Yeah. And you can tell after one meeting, do you really want to be this guy's partner? my wife had a classic line, "Why if he cheated on his wife, why wouldn't he cheat you?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's a good point."
That's a great point, right?
Yeah, we won't be partners with him.
Yeah, next. Yeah,
That right.
100%.
So, it's look, this stuff's common sense. No ego, and what can you do for others all comes back to you.
Yeah, so be generous, surround yourself, it's the who, so surround yourself with great people,
Yep.
and then just keep working hard, keep trying to win. Keep the
Yeah.
faith,
Keep
family
trying to win,
values.
but it's the people around you, right? I mean, it really is, and you can't let it eat you up, you know?
Well, Mike, I'm really glad and I'm really grateful for your time and to surround yourself as being one of the who.
Oh, thank you.
I appreciate all the insight and the wisdom that you shared with both me and the audience as a whole.
Thank
I'm
you.
grateful. I just think that it's wonderful to sit down and to have conversations with people who are out there that are the movers and shakers in the world.
Yeah.
And so I
Well,
really,
I don't really think I'm a mover and a shaker, so I've been very lucky, fortunate, and I just whatever I can give back, I'm all in for that, you know?
amen.
I gotta focus my family or my faith, my family, my friends. That's how my dad was, and that's the speech I gave, that's his eulogy is what drove him was faith, family, and friends, and that's what I do it for. I mean, I wake up every day because I got 11 grandkids. I worry about them every day, and a dog named Bear.
This is the cutest dog in the world, too.
Yeah.
My gosh. Bear's coming in at the perfect time. He's like, all right. He's like, let's go. Dad. We're
Right.
getting out of here. Well, Mike, thank you again, too. This has been, audience, this has been a great pleasure to have Mike Catanzarite on for episode 53. If you're in the Strongsville, Cleveland area, definitely check out Square 22, the restaurant that was aforementioned that Mike runs so beautifully. Get yourself a nice burger.
There you go.
You'll be happy with it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Follow along anywhere that you get your podcast, whether it's on Apple, Spotify, Amazon, or if you're watching here on YouTube. I appreciate you tuning in. I'm your host, Joe Clark, signing off of episode 53. Thanks for listening.